Welcome back, friends. If you've been following along, you know that we've had two incredible conversations with Marie, who is the author of Have You Had Your Coffee Break Today, but Not the Way You Think. If you have not, then look at the show notes, and I will put the links to part 1 and 2 there. So today is the episode that you've all been waiting for. So in part 3, we're finally diving into the protocol. Now, we're not going to get as specific as it is in her book or in my program, but we're going to be talking about how to actually begin, what herbs to explore, how to safely start your coffee enema routine, and what you can expect along the way. Marie shares some fascinating real-life stories, what a healing crisis really is, and why something as simple as a clay bath can make a world of difference in your recovery. We'll also talk about what happens afterward, from oil floating to mucoid plaque, and how to understand what your body is releasing as it heals. It's eye-opening, empowering, and yes, sometimes a little surprising. So grab your notebook, get comfy, and let's jump into part 3 of this incredible series on healing, detox, and the amazing ways God designed our bodies to restore themselves.
Gallbladder gone. Now what? Let's heal from the inside out.
Welcome to Gallbladder Gone? Now what? The podcast for Christian women navigating life after gallbladder removal. Hosted by Jami, holistic nutritionist, wife, boy mum, grandma, and a firm believer in God's design for lasting health. Did you know that over 1.2 million Americans have their gallbladders removed every year, and that the majority of them are women? Even more eye-opening is that all gallbladder issues are digestive issues, and poor digestion is at the root of up to 80% of all disease, including hormone imbalances and weight struggles. While Jami isn't a doctor, and this podcast isn't medical advice, she shares real solutions rooted in research, experience, and God's Word. Let's get practical, biblical, and real, one step at a time.
So let's kind of move on to a little bit of like the protocol. So you said herbs for the liver and coffee enemas, along with antifungal supplements and diet are an absolute must. We can talk another time about more herbs, which you did talk about. But what do you think about diet? What are your suggestions as far as diet with those without a gallbladder who are on the cusp of losing it?
Well, if you're on the cusp of losing it, you want to eliminate fats
Okay.
because that's laboring it right now. And you also have to watch high protein right now because those two things are laboring the liver function. Now, I love high protein later, but right now the main thing is those fats. You have to eliminate it. And a lot of people will notice that if they eat like even a salad with salad dressing, they'll go into an attack.
Ugh,
It's not always large amounts of fat. Yeah, they can get just with a little bit. So I would say fats right now. Now, if you've lost your gallbladder, you can eat fats now because, but it's not going to work quite at the same. But if your liver is stimulated into better, you will be able to process foods very well because it'll signal to the pancreas and to the stomach the production of enzymes that are needed, and you'll be able to digest. But I wouldn't overdo fat, even if if you've lost your gallbladder. I wouldn't eat fried foods.
Yeah,
that's one thing I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't eat fried foods. Grill your food or bake it or whatever. But I wouldn't eat a lot of fried. But if you still have your gallbladder, I guarantee if you eat something fatty, you're going to feel it. If you eat it right now before you do anything. So yeah, that would be my biggest dietary caution.
Okay.
For them.
Now,
and then after the gallbladder is taken out, like I said, you can eat. People should eat as much organic as they can. I know sometimes that's not able to be done. Do the best you can. Do the best you can. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of keep trying to be healthy, right?
That's it.
So most people don't really know what to expect from a coffee enema break. So I was just hoping that you could kind of explain to me the experience.
You mean from how to take it, how to make it, and how
Yeah,
to
kind of like
take it?
if someone was to say, "What do you mean a coffee enema?"
Okay. Well, I'll go through it as fast as I can. I'm not going to go into all the details,
Yeah,
but
no details
that's
because
in the
it's in
book.
the book. Yeah.
Okay, what I do for me, it's very easy because I've been doing these now for decades. So it's like so, and I even tell people, once you spend about a month
Hmm.
making them, it becomes very like second nature to you. I mean, it's like, you'll be doing this and get your coffee going while you're getting this together for something, and you get into a routine. It's not like you at first you're going to spend your time watching, every how you do it. And then it becomes really like automatic. So what you do is I use enamel coated pots.
Okay.
Make sure they're not chipped. I like enamel coated pots because there's no metal actually touching anything. And they're very inexpensive. You can go on Amazon and find these enamel coated pots. Um,
So why not metal?
and because metal can react, depending on, like, if I would just say metal, not everybody's going to have stainless steel pots, which are
Okay.
okay.
They would do
But
aluminum or something.
they're liable to use some other kind of pot. Definitely not Teflon coated,
Yeah.
any of that kind of thing. That is not good. So these enamel coated pots, you can buy what's called a nest of two or
Hmm.
three pots for like $15. It's not a big deal. So anyway, you take 3 cups of distilled water, and it has to be distilled, not spring water, not tap water, because you want the minerals out of that water. And there's a reason for that. Okay. When you use distilled water and you take that in for the enema, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. When you take that in, there is a void in that water. And by science, that void has to be filled. So
Okay.
what fills that void when you do the coffee enema are the toxins.
Mm.
So that helps pull the poison out of the system. That's why you're using distilled water and
Okay.
not spring water and not tap water. Okay, so you take 3 cups of water, you pour it in your pan, and you bring it to a boil. As soon as it starts boiling, you add 3 rounded scoops, that come with the coffee, 3 rounded scoops of your coffee, and you let that come to a boil in about a half a minute. It's boiling. You set the timer for 3 minutes. After it boils, you lower that to a simmer, and you simmer it for 15 to 20 minutes, no longer than that. Okay.
Hmm.
And then you strain it off. Now, this is important. You use a hand strainer. You have 2 pots. Okay. So you have the pot that you made the coffee in. You strain that coffee into this pot, the second pot.
Okay.
Okay. And then you throw out the grinds. And then you rinse off your strainer, and you now take that coffee and put it back into the original pot that you've rinsed out the grinds.
Hmm.
You do that. Then you do it another time, a third time. And by the fourth time, you're back into the original pot. You've strained it 3 times. The coffee grinds are out. You do not use the coffee grinds.
Hmm.
Okay. And when you do that first strain, you make sure you rinse out that first pot. You get all the coffee grinds out of there. Rub
Hmm.
it with your hand, get it nice and clean, get it all out. Then you strain it, strain it, strain it. It's back into the original pot. Then you add another cup and a half of the distilled water for 2 reasons. You're going to dilute it a little bit and you cool it off.
Hmm.
Now you test you well, if you're going to take it right away, you make sure that you test the temperature. There are food thermometers you can do, or you can do it the old way, like on your wrist, like you do
Hmm.
a baby bottle,
Yeah.
because your colon, your rectum, your anus has no nerves to tell you if that's hot. So you
Okay.
want to make sure that it is not hot. You want it warm, like room temperature, but you do not want it hot. You do not want it cold. You want it like a comfortable temperature. Like, so test it on your wrist if you don't have the thermometer. Okay.
Hmm.
Then you take your bag, which you've had cleaned and washed from the time before, and you pour it in your bag. You tighten the cap on your bag, making sure that the hose clamp is shut. Okay. And then you go to the procedure of putting the nozzle back I go into detail in the book about this, how you detach the nozzle
Hmm.
each time or you're done with the enema, but make sure your tip is washed again. Even though I washed it when I used it the last time, right before I put it into that hose again, I washed that tip very, 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 very well, put it back on. Now you do a 10-15 second flush, which means you just put that in, use a little bit of Vaseline on the tip so you don't hurt the anus. You put that in. Um, you can kneel down for this. You can stand, put one leg on the commode and do it that way. You put that in. You release the clamp. 10-15 seconds from the time you feel the water entering. You let the water enter. As soon as 10-15 seconds, close the clamp, get on the commode, let that out. The purpose for that is to get out any bowel movement or gas that may be in the system, because if there's bowel movement or gas in the rectum, it will cause you to not be able to hold the enema. Remember, the coffee enema is a retention enema.
Uh-huh.
You have to be able to hold it that 15 minutes. So that's the purpose of that flush. Okay, then you wash your tip again, put the Vaseline on again, uh, put the tip in the anus, and now you're going to lay on your right side. And when you lay on the right, make sure the bag's about 4 feet above where you're laying. Open the clamp, and there you pinch it with your finger. I pinch it with my fingers because I have found that some clamps, if you put it on the low, what they call the low setting, it's letting
Uh-huh.
the water in too fast. So I just pinch it, make sure it's entering. If it's entering slowly, you won't feel cramping. That you'll feel the
Okay.
water, but you won't feel cramping. When the bag is emptied, close the clamp, lay there 15 minutes. And at that point, you get on the commode, let it out, and you've had your coffee enema.
Oh, I love it.
That, that's a coffee enema. So,
And
but
so,
again, I just emphasize that, and I go through in the book many times, you must keep everything clean. That is the main thing.
absolutely.
Everything has
Don't
to
get
be
lazy
kept
with that.
clean. No, no, no. That is the most, that is the only thing that can go wrong, is that if people do not keep the apparatus clean, they have to. That's most important.
Yeah, and kind of going when you get into that rhythm, right? So once you
Yeah.
start doing this and you're getting into a rhythm, you
Yeah.
really want to keep doing it because again, it feels so good. You feel light, you feel refreshed.
Mhm.
I know for me that I even when I'm traveling, I can do this, and we
Mhm.
find ways to do it. There's this lady with my girlfriend sent me her information. She traveled Europe and she had a setup
Yep.
and
Yep.
she had everything set and she would even because she also did the juices. She was in a cancer support
Uh-huh.
group. She'd always find a
Mhm.
juice place wherever she went and then
Yes.
she knew she had all her stuff and all their cleaning stuff.
Yeah.
So it's completely doable. But like you said, in the
I,
beginning, the first couple times can feel a little overwhelming, but as you
yes.
get into your rhythm, it's quick, quick, quick.
I
Yeah.
did the same thing going to Europe. I absolutely love Ireland, and I've gone to Ireland many, many, many times, and my bag is always with me. And I took my friend and I, she was on my program. We would have our equipment, and I always tell people that if you cannot make a coffee in your room, if you can't get it, to take a bottle of distilled water
Hmm.
to somebody in the kitchen
Yeah.
and say, I have a health issue and I cannot drink coffee with anything but distilled water. Can you make me a strong pot of coffee with this water? And I never had anybody turn me down.
I love
And
that.
so, yeah. And so I would give them the bottle. They would make the coffee for me. I would bring it back to my room and bingo, we would have our coffee enemas. So yeah,
Staying healthy on the road.
yeah. And also too, I had, over the years, I've had a lot of pilots and flight attendants that were clients of mine,
Uh-huh.
because there was an airlines that was headquartered here, and they never missed a beat. They never
I
missed a beat once. Yeah.
Well, when you're
So,
committed, right? There's a saying that I
yep.
love. When you're interested, you do what's convenient. When you're committed, you do
Yeah.
what it takes. And
Yes.
when you're committed to your health and these coffee breaks, you do what it takes and you work it out. And I go visit my daughter-in-law, and my son, and at their house and bring my stuff and they know grandma needs some time alone to take a break.
Time alone. That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. And for people too that feel like, um I do compliment you on how you began it. You didn't tell your husband or anybody because you don't need that stress at first. You if you feel uncomfortable telling people, don't tell people. They don't
Mhm.
have to know that you're doing this at first.
You don't
Just
have to
if
make an
if it's
announcement.
gonna, yeah, you don't need to stress yourself out. You need to relax. And that's another thing too. When you're doing an enema, you should be relaxed. Don't
Hmm.
ever do an enema when you like, okay, I've got enough time, but I have a meeting like in an hour. So don't do that.
Yeah.
Make sure that you are able to relax. Because if you're tense about something, you're not going to do a good coffee. I guarantee it. You
Well,
won't
and
do
you're
a good
creating
coffee.
stress hormones, right?
Exactly.
And
So you want to make sure that you have the time set aside that you can relax while doing it, and then you'll have a good cleanse. You'll have a
yeah,
very good cleanse,
and
and your body will heal. Keep healing.
absolutely. And
Mhm.
I've had people who, some of clients of mine where like they make it a beautiful thing. They light candles, they'll use a little essential
Yeah.
oils, put on nice music, maybe they even journal and stuff like that. And so making it special, I know other people, it's the only time that they can watch their shows. And so they go relax, you know?
Exactly. I mean, there's ways, I know people, I like to pray personally.
Hmm.
I like to pray while I'm doing it. It it gives me my time
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
to just pray and but I have to tell you a funny story about doing this. Is very quick. This is so funny. I had a client. She told me that she was in her bathroom. She had this beautiful home and had a skylight in the bathroom. So she's on her floor, and of course you cover yourself. You know
Uh-huh.
how I tell you in the book to cover yourself so that your body doesn't get cold. Just with a thin sheet or a thin blanket. So she's there and she has, but the hose is coming out and it's hanging, and she's laying on the floor, and all of a sudden she sees something up in the skylight, and she hears footsteps on the roof. And unbeknownst to her, there was a roofer up there checking the roof. And all of a sudden, she sees a man look down into the skylight. He's checking the skylight. He looks down and he sees her, and she just waves.
Oh gosh. Thank goodness she was
She just
covered.
waves. Yeah, she's covered. But she just waves. She said, I heard him jump up and run across the roof. I said, well, you were the topic of conversation at dinner that night, I guarantee. You know,
Absolutely. That's
but
hilarious.
there's some funny things. There's some funny things that happen. But yeah, always cover yourself. You never.
You never know. Yeah. So you also mentioned before when we were talking is that what is this healing crisis? So you say that there are some symptoms and some reasons why it happens and why it's
Yeah,
important to take care of it.
yeah. The healing crisis is a signal that the liver gives to the body that it needs some cleansing. That's
Hmm.
basically what the healing crisis is. It means that the liver is overloaded. Now, this is once you've started a protocol to
Hmm.
cleanse the liver. Okay. So, say, you're either doing raw juicing or you're taking herbs. Let's use one of those. And those substances go in and start loosening the poison in the body
Hmm.
and in the liver. Now, say you're taking something for your liver and your kidneys. Okay, the other areas of the body are going to send their toxins into the liver because the liver's job is to detox the body, to clean the bloodstream. So if you're taking something for the kidneys and you're taking something for the liver, those poisons, the liver's loosening its own poison, the kidneys are sending their toxins to the liver to be eliminated from the bloodstream. And so you're going to hit what's called a healing crisis, which is the liver giving a signal, I need some help. I need cleansed to keep doing what I should do. So the common symptoms are headache, and that's if you've never had headaches.
Okay.
Okay. You can get, now you won't get all of these. You may get one or two, you may get five, you may get one. Headache, extreme fatigue, and aggravation of existing symptoms. Those are the most common ones, the first three: headache, extreme fatigue, and aggravation of existing symptoms. Now, this one I tell people to really think about because it can be anything that has been bothering you. It could be
Mhm.
a pain in your ankle, it could be a pain in your knee, it could be your vision's blurred. If those things that you've had seem to get worse, that's a healing crisis. That's the liver saying, help me out. Okay, then head cold symptoms. That involves the sinuses, a lot of mucus, a lot of head cold kind of symptoms, flu-like symptoms, chills, achiness, that
Mhm.
kind of thing. Fever, and then the last one, nausea, vomiting. It can be nausea or vomiting. Now, those two, fever and nausea or vomiting, usually show up in people that have had a lot of drugs, a
Okay.
lot of medication. Maybe they had a lot of surgeries. They've had a lot of anesthetics, from in the surgeries, or they've been taking a lot of very potent drugs. Those fever and nausea don't usually occur in a lot of people unless they've had a lot of drugs in their background.
Okay.
And
And
so then when you take the coffee enema, when you see these crisis symptoms, that's when you take your coffee and you take extra. If you took one and you feel better, but you're still not quite there, like let's use the headache as an
mhm,
example. You have the headache, okay, it releases by maybe 50%. Then you take in 2 to 3 hours, you take another one, another coffee, and
mhm.
that will get rid of the rest of the headache because you never know how much the liver is wanting to dump until you start doing those coffees. You can read how toxic it is by how you feel.
Yeah, and it ebbs
The
and
proof
flows,
that you
right? So sometimes it's like, "Oh, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine." Then you have
yeah.
you have this healing crisis. You're like, "Where did this come from?"
Well, the first crisis can occur from the time you start the herbs.
Mhm.
I'm going to use that because I'm an herbalist. The first within 24 to 48 hours, you can hit your first crisis,
Yeah.
which usually amazes people, but that's how fast it can. The herbs go in by really quickly and start doing their job. And so within 24 to 48 hours, you can be hitting your first crisis. So the way I head that off is that I assess people's condition when they come to me, and I will give them a base amount of coffees to do based on how toxic they are when I see them. So you might leave here and I'll say, take 2 coffee enemas a week. But if you have a crisis, you increase that.
Mhm.
And then I explain to them just what I told you, how to read a crisis, and then they increase it. And a lot of times within the first month, they're taking like 3 or 4 a week,
Yeah.
because they see that, whoa, I'm really not, I'm getting days where I don't feel good. And then as soon as they do the coffee, they see the relief and they feel better. And each time when you're doing this, you get to the point where you feel better and better, and eventually your crisis symptoms will get less intense and farther apart
Okay.
until the base amount of coffee enemas are covering it, like one a week. When you
Mhm.
get to that point, you're well, you're doing quite well. But for a while, that's not going to happen for a while. That's not going to happen for months. You have to be committed to it if you want to get well,
Okay.
with
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, and then you also suggest taking clay baths, right?
The clay bath, yeah. The two areas when you're toxic, when you're having a crisis, the two areas are the liver, which is the main detoxifier, and then your lymph system, which
Mhm.
is a secondary filtering system. And the lymph system will not get toxic unless the liver is not, it's sort of like the gallbladder. The liver will not get toxic and overloaded unless the liver is not doing its job, unless it's unable to filter the blood properly. And so then what happens is the toxins that are in the liver that aren't being filtered out start spilling over into the secondary filtering system, which is the lymph system.
Mm.
And then when I hit reflex points for the lymph system, some people jump off the chair when I hit like the front of their shins. I'll go
Mhm.
down the front of their shin, and some people just like almost like scream out because it's so tender. And today there are a lot of people that have lymphedema,
Mhm.
and their legs swell very badly, their feet swell very badly, and that's it can be caused by circulation. But doctors will say, well, the lymph system isn't filtering, and well, yeah, but why is the lymph not filtering? That's what they don't get to.
Mhm.
Why isn't the lymph not filtering? The lymph's not filtering because the liver needs a lot of help. And then once you start cleaning the liver, you've got to clean, especially at the crisis. You do the enema, and then you take the clay bath, because then the clay bath will take the rest of the toxin, which is in the lymph system. It'll
Mhm.
remove it. from the lymph. Now you've got both of your filtering systems operating good for a while. Now they're going to be able to keep cleansing, keep
Yeah.
cleansing your body, you know? And that's the purpose of the clay bath. The clay bath is very cleansing to the body, because you have lymph all over your body. You have it in your groin, under your arms, you know, your belly, I mean, there's lymph, so you're able to cleanse those,
Yeah.
cleanse the toxins out of those, I should say.
Good. Well, so I have a few questions from myself and other people. So when you're releasing your the coffee into the toilet, people have
Mhm.
noted that there's smells, there's oil floating, or that there's mucoid plaque. So is that something that we can?
Yes. Yes, the greater the stench, the more you've detoxed. That's a good sign. When you have a stench, that means you're getting a lot of toxin on. The oil that you see is actually the toxin, the mucus. That's what toxin takes the form of. It's mucus. And the oil is dissolved mucus, more dissolved mucus. That is the form that the toxin takes. So when you're seeing that, say, oh, good riddance. That's what my grandmother used to say. She'd say good riddance when she'd say,
Yeah,
and
because
she'd flush the toilet. That's a very good sign. That means you're really doing it right. You're really getting a lot of poison out. But yeah, the greater the stench, the more toxin you're getting out. Eventually, when you get down the road, you will get to a point where it doesn't have much of a stench, because you're constantly working on the liver, you know? So the more you do it regularly, that'll actually go away. But there will be times, like if you're exposed to something and you do one and you'll think, oh, I was exposed to something, because wow, that really was nasty, you know? So that's a very good sign that toxins are coming out. Yes.
good. Yeah,
And also heat. A lot of times people will, it's not the coffee water, because the water is going to be just warm, you know? If
mhm.
they feel when they pass the liquid that it's hot, that's also a sign of toxins being passed.
Yeah, I've had both all of those where it's like, wow, that's coming out so hot. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's times where it's like I could smell chemicals, like chemical
Uh-huh.
nastiness. And I've had
Yep.
clients, especially those who've come back to me who are a hairstylist, so they've worked a lot with coloring or perming.
Yes.
Like I can smell that in the toilet. I'm like,
Yep.
yeah,
Some of
good.
the worst damage to the liver are people that work in that industry.
Yeah.
It's some of the worst damage to livers. Yes, I've had people that have been hairstylists that, yeah, I've had that experience. Yeah. But that's good that they're doing that, working on it. Yep.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody who's doing it daily for a year or more? Is that necessary, unnecessary? Does it matter?
I pretty much do it daily. And then I'll increase them as I need them. I would recommend at least every other day. I mean, if you're not, on a particular program, or once you get to the point, like I said, I've been taking them for decades. So it's like, you know, uh, it's just a good protocol to do to keep healthy. I mean, I had 3 years ago, I had abdominal surgery. I had a hernia
Mm,
from, lifting things that I shouldn't really lift. So I had a very severe abdominal hernia, and you know how they do the pre questioning
yeah.
before surgery, and they're asking you all this stuff, and you have your EKGs and all this stuff. They're doing all that. So the nurse, she comes in and she's asking me all these questions. She says, "Well, do you have this? No. Do you have that? No. Do you take this? No." And she got done and she looked at me and she put her hands on her hip and she said, "So you're really healthy except for this." She points to my abdomen. And I said, "Well, yeah, I am." And she said, "Well, that's really amazing." She said, because at that point, I'm 74 now. So that was like I was 71. And she said, "That's really amazing for somebody your age." And
Yeah.
I said, "Well, yeah, I know. I thank God for that. You
Yeah.
know, I thank God every day that, yeah." And, but I wanted to say to her, you don't understand. If you did this all the time, you would avoid that.
Yes.
It's really, so I would say, yes, do them every day if you can. Do them every other day. Now, like when I had surgery, of course, I didn't do them for,
Hmm.
about 3 weeks at least. But then as soon as I was able to, yes, I started to do them again because I wanted to get the anesthetic out of the body. I didn't let that lay there. I wanted to get the anesthetic out. It was going to help with pain,
Yeah.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they were very surprised when I refused pain medication. I said, no, 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 I'll take care of that. I'll
Yeah.
be okay. I don't need that. And so, yeah, it's a very valuable thing to do. And I would recommend every day, every other day. It's a good thing. Like I said, it's a way to clean the body as natural as brushing teeth or, taking a shower. That's the way I look at it. That's the way, a lot of people have looked at it. And, there are people that have written very well, people that are into studying about the colon. Dr. Bernard Jensen years ago wrote books, said that our colon, for instance, was the garbage can of our body.
Mm-hmm.
So the colon's under the direct control of the liver, and so
Yeah.
if you're working on the liver, you're going to cleanse those organs and remove toxins from the lining of the colon. Okay, that's another thing too. As people stay on the program, when you get into that 4 to 8 month uh, period that I was telling you about, where you can hit some really bad crises, you'll also see the change in what you eliminate in the toilet. You'll start seeing like flat pieces of things start coming out. And that's old debris on the colon wall.
Yeah.
That's
I
really old.
I remembered it was about that second week in, I released into the toilet and this stuff came out of me. And it actually freaked me out. And I flushed the
Yeah.
toilet real quick. And I was like, dang it, I should have
Mhm.
like taken a picture or something. Because I didn't know what it was. And since
Yeah.
then, I have gotten lots of this, because for me, I was so sick for so long that things just weren't moving. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of debris. And
Oh,
it,
yeah.
yeah, getting that stuff out was so
Well,
important.
when you get to the 8 month, 4 to 8 months, you're going to start. If you're taking herbs, you're going to start loosening stuff off the colon wall that have been there for years. I'm
Hmm.
talking years. I mean, it's not just like weeks or months. So, and also too, I want to make a caution here since we're talking about this. When people are killing parasites, now there's a lot of products on the market to kill parasites, a lot of herbs
Hmm.
that people can look up to kill parasites. Okay. Do your coffee enemas because as that stuff dies, okay, those are very toxic
Yeah.
when they're dead. So you have to make sure that you get those parasites out of the body, and they can be anywhere. They can be in your eyes. Parasites can be absolutely anywhere, depending on what kind of parasite they are. And if you have fungus in the body,
Mhm.
there's a program on TV, Know the Cause, with Dr. Doug Kaufman,
Okay.
and he talks a lot about fungus. And you've got to get that fungus out of the body. You can kill it off, but you have to get the fungus, the dead fungus, out of your body.
Yeah.
And the key to that is the liver. And if you do, and when you're doing this, please, again, keep your bag clean because you don't want any debris from parasites left in that bag or hose or tip. You
Yeah.
want to make sure everything is clean. And I go into detail in the book of how to soak your bag once a week and clean it every time you use it. And you have to make sure that's clean because there are going to be parasites like you were talking about in the toilet. You'll see parasites in the toilet.
Yep.
I actually have a list that I give my clients of what to look for when I'm killing parasites.
Oh,
I'll say,
really?
here's a list. You can see any of these, and I sort of describe them like commonly. Like I'll say, these look like white threads, these look like black specks, these look like the cereal corn puffs. You'll see they look like corn puffs, and these look like spiders, and these look like worms, and like spaghetti, and these are, and there's so many kinds, and so, but make sure the bag is clean. But when you're doing parasite cleanse, that's another thing.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, and so
Hmm.
kind of going because of course that goes back to keeping the detox pathways open. If you're going to do a detox, keep the pathways open, right?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so what if a person does not have bowel movements between enemas? Is that okay? Like the
Yeah,
clean out
yeah, it
kind
is.
of does that?
Yeah, once your liver at first, when you're doing, and you might have to do a lot at the beginning, the first few months, you may be doing a lot of coffees to break the crises. But once a person gets to a normal uh, cycle of enemas, usually within 8 hours that you've taken a coffee, you will have a normal bowel movement. You
Mm,
don't become dependent on them.
mm-hmm.
So if you took a coffee enema, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, by midnight, you'll be having a bowel movement on your own. You
Okay.
know, that will happen. But when you're doing multiples, no, you won't be having bowel movements on your own because the colon's the avenue where the debris is coming out, you
Yeah.
know. And there's no problem with that. Like I said, you're not going to become dependent. It's not a laxative. If anything, you begin having better bowel movements, like we talked about constipation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you won't have constipation, and you will, your body, as the liver regulates, you will start having normal function,
Nice.
peristaltic action. Your body will start working properly again. So it all goes back to the liver again. You know.
Boy, we really do need to. This is actually what the podcast is turning a lot into is liver health. Liver and digestive health
Yeah,
is so key.
yeah,
I'm going to put your book
yeah.
link.
The gallbladder. Oh, go ahead. I'm
No,
sorry.
you go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm going to
Well,
put
the
your
gallbladder
link.
is
I'm just going to put your link to the gallbladder,
it's
to your book in the show notes. So go ahead.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, the gallbladder is just so important into our digestion, but again, it's under the control of the liver. And so it's a shame that it's yanked out so many times unnecessarily, but you can live without it if you know what to do and you can eat, healthfully. But you do have to always remember that if you had your gallbladder taken out, you must work on that liver because that was what caused the problem. And you will have other problems if you ignore the liver. You've lost the gallbladder, but don't lose something else like your total health because that can happen. That
Well,
can
and
happen.
it
It
does.
can. It's that.
And that's usually when
Mhm.
people come to me when they're
Yeah,
like, I didn't know it was connected. It is.
yeah. That's exactly when I see people too. And let's say infertility. Okay, vast amount of women today have infertility, and it all goes back to the liver. And it's a shame because I usually see them at the point where they've gone to at least two doctors and being told they'll never have children again. And they come to me and I'll say, well, yeah, you can, but you're going to have to buckle down and do some work.
Mm-hmm.
And because now you have the medicines that the doctor gave you and the procedures that the doctors did, I have to detox that, plus the original problem that caused you to have infertility. So you have to be committed to it. And I must say that I have every Christmas, I have cards and pictures sent to me of the children of the people uh, who wouldn't have been here had the mothers not gone to natural therapy and worked on the liver.
I love
And
that.
so they have children now. And so that, it's amazing when you see that happen. It's uh, to think that they wouldn't have had children had they not sought out something else.
Something different.
And yeah, sought out something and made the commitment.
Yeah.
But that's what can happen if you're not working on that wonderful organ
Right.
called the liver.
Well, I have absolutely loved this conversation. I loved your book, and I will, like I said, I will put the link in the show notes to your book. But if
Okay.
there was a final piece of advice or words of wisdom that you could share with our audience, what would that be?
Uh, I think I would say don't let a diagnosis frighten you. If you've gone to a doctor or doctors, don't let that diagnosis frighten you and look into natural therapy and always look to the liver and start looking up liver herbs. Uh, Seek out an herbalist, a naturopath that works with this, and start doing the coffees along with whatever natural protocol you're on, and you will see that your health will be restored. A vast variety of ailments, and you won't have to be reliant on synthetic drugs, and you will regain your health.
Wow, what an empowering conversation with Marie. I hope you're walking away from this episode feeling inspired, encouraged, and reminded of how beautifully God designed your body to heal when given the right support. If you love this series, don't forget to click the links in the show notes so you never miss a podcast. I have a fantastic lineup of holistic professionals coming your way, and they are truly amazing and leaders in our industry. So, I've also added the link to Marie's book in the show notes. It's such a powerful resource for anyone ready to take their healing to the next level. And if you're ready to go even deeper into restoring your health, I'd love to personally guide you. You can click the link below to work, or in the show notes rather, to work with me one-on-one, where we will use my 7 historically accurate and scientifically proven principles and an in-depth personalized 18-week protocol to help you truly heal from the inside out. There's going to be no more guessing. Or if you'd rather begin at your own pace, I also have a beautiful DIY program that walks you step by step through the same process, giving you the tools, guidance, and confidence to start your healing journey right where you are. Whichever path you choose, know this: you can restore your health, you can regain your energy, and live in alignment with the body and wisdom God gave you. Until next time, remember, true healing begins when faith and action come together. Until then, happy digesting.
If this episode encouraged you or offered practical insight, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Leaving a review, subscribing, and sharing with even one friend helps more people discover this message, and Jami is truly grateful for your support. Be sure to check the show notes for free downloads, helpful resources, and a link to join Jami's private Facebook group for extra support and community that blends practical health with biblical truth. Just a reminder, Jami isn't a doctor, so always consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your health plan.